If this video has reached you, it means you're seeking a change in your life, an improvement, or even to understand yourself and the people around you. And so, start the change right now by influencing your profile's algorithm. Like this video, comment on your thoughts and what changes you hope to see in your life, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel so YouTube recommends more transformative and enlightening videos to you. This way, you'll truly witness the change and improvement in your daily life. There are times when exhaustion weighs heavier than usual, when the mind seeks an escape, anything to silence that internal noise. Sometimes it's an extra drink, an impulsive purchase, overworking, or even relationships that drain more than they give. The medium doesn't matter, the pattern remains the same, the need to fill a void that never seems fully satisfied. Carl Jung saw this clearly. For him, addiction wasn't just a matter of brain chemistry, but a failed search for wholeness, a sign that something deeper is out of place. Addiction in any form is a desperate attempt to silence what we don't want to hear. It's not just pleasure or habit. It's a struggle between the desire to feel alive and the fear of facing reality. And here lies the problem. The more we flee, the stronger the need to keep escaping. Philosophy and psychology have studied this for centuries, showing that personal growth doesn't begin with accumulating money or external success, but with the courage to look inward. But of course, looking inward is uncomfortable. Jung spoke of the importance of integrating what we avoid within ourselves. What isn't acknowledged or repressed ends up manifesting in other ways: anxiety, impulsivity, destructive relationships, or in the most extreme form, addiction. The problem is that the brain seeks the quickest solution, the one that provides immediate relief, even if it's a trap. Simplifying life, finding meaning in the everyday, learning to be with oneself without needing external anesthesia. All of this seems difficult, but it's the key to breaking the cycle. Look around you. How many people seem to have everything yet feel like something's missing? They drown themselves in work, money, or social media, chasing a satisfaction that never lasts long enough. This isn't coincidence. It's a repeated pattern in different forms. Jung would say that what's truly sought isn't the object of desire, but relief from a deeper wound. Until that root is understood, the need will keep returning. And if the root is so internal, why does the brain insist on seeking external solutions? What happens neurologically that causes this cycle to repeat? Though the problem has strong emotional and psychological components, the brain also plays a key role in sustaining addiction. To understand this better, we must dive into the workings of the addicted mind, the mechanisms that trap us without us even realizing it. What happens in the brain of an addict? The human brain is a survival machine. Its primary goal isn't to make you happy, but to ensure you keep functioning. To do this, it follows a simple rule: repeat what brings pleasure and avoid what causes pain. This seems logical, right? But here's the problem. When the brain finds something that generates a quick, intense reward, like a drug, it begins prioritizing that sensation above all else. At first, it feels like a choice, but over time, it becomes a necessity. Philosophy and psychology often discuss the role of desire in human life, but neuroscience shows how that desire can become a prison. Every time someone uses a drug, the brain releases a flood of dopamine, the neurotransmitter of pleasure and reward. But here's the catch: the more dopamine is artificially released, the less sensitive the brain becomes to it. In other words, what once brought pleasure now requires higher doses to achieve the same effect. This is how the tolerance cycle begins, where a person needs to consume more and more to feel what they once felt. And when they don't consume, the discomfort sets in. Before continuing, subscribe to our channel to keep progressing in your journey of change and development. By subscribing, you're joining another Blue Mind, a member of our community of logical and rational thinkers. Anxiety and despair are like an imbalanced internal economy, a personal growth process that, instead of advancing, becomes trapped in dependency. But this doesn't only happen with drugs. The same reward mechanism applies to money, social media, food, gaming, anything that promises immediate gratification. Look around. We live in a society that trains our brains to seek quick pleasure and avoid effort. Why save when you can pay in installments? Why face a problem when you can swipe past it on your phone? Small daily decisions strengthen this same addictive mechanism, reinforcing the desire for the shortest path without considering long-term consequences. There's more. Emotional. Memory is a powerful trigger. The brain doesn't just remember the pleasure of the substance or addictive behavior, but also the relief it provided during difficult moments. This is how emotional triggers work. A person might go months without consuming, but a moment of stress, frustration, or deep loneliness is enough for the brain to recall the solution and generate an uncontrollable craving. At this point, simplifying life and developing emotional resilience aren't just nice-sounding advice, they're practical tools for escaping this cycle. And it's not just a matter of willpower. The addicted brain physically changes, reorganizing its circuits to prioritize the substance above any other source of pleasure. Connections that once generated satisfaction with simple things, like reading a book, exercising, or being with friends, weaken. This is why recovery isn't just about stopping consumption, but reprogramming the brain to feel pleasure again in what truly matters. It's hard work, but possible. Now, if addiction has so much to do with the brain and chemical pleasure, where does the mind fit into all this? Jung said that what we deny most within ourselves ends up controlling us. The problem of addiction isn't in the substance, but in what we're trying to hide from ourselves, the shadow, the parts of ourselves we don't want to see. Everyone has a hidden side, the part of the personality we avoid examining closely. Carl Jung called this the shadow, everything we repress, because we don't want or can't accept it in ourselves. The problem is, the shadow doesn't disappear just because we ignore it. On the contrary, the more we hide it, the more power it gains over our decisions. One of the most common paths for this escape is addiction. After all, if something offers immediate relief to avoid dealing with our fears, insecurities, and emotional pain, why not turn to it? The problem is that this relief is temporary, and the void returns even larger. The shadow may contain past traumas, feelings of inadequacy, repressed desires, or even aspects of our personality that society rejects. To avoid confronting these head-on, people seek distractions. Some bury themselves in work, others become addicted to consumption, food, money, or even relationships that harm them. In the case of drugs, they offer a dangerous shortcut, a way to numb the pain without resolving its cause. But this escape comes at a high cost. The more the shadow is avoided, the more it manifests destructively. This is where the addiction cycle begins. At first, the substance or addictive behavior seems harmless, even pleasurable. But over time, it becomes a necessity. The person feels they can't live without it because it keeps their shadow at bay. The problem is the shadow never disappears. It only grows stronger in the darkness. The stronger it becomes, the harder it is to face reality. The result: a cycle where momentary relief becomes a prison and the true root of the problem remains untouched. Jung said, the only path to real liberation is integrating the shadow. This means looking inward, acknowledging what's been repressed, and finding a healthy way to give space to these parts of the personality. It sounds difficult, and it is. Confronting what's been avoided for so long can be painful, but this is where true personal growth lies. Yes, simplifying life helps. Yes, caring for the mind and emotions is essential, but above all, it takes courage to truly know oneself. Looking around, it's easy to see the shadow acting silently in many people. Who hasn't known someone who seemed to have everything yet felt empty? Who hasn't seen someone repeat the same mistakes as if trapped in an invisible pattern? This isn't coincidence, it's the shadow in command. For those on the path of addiction, this is a difficult trap to escape without deep self-awareness. But what if addiction isn't just an escape, but also a search? What if deep down, those who fall into addiction aren't just avoiding something, but trying to find something greater? Could there be a connection between this impulse to consume and the human need to connect with something transcendent? Jung had a theory about this, and the answer may lie in the pursuit of the luminous. How to overcome addiction through Jungian psychology. Overcoming addiction isn't just about stopping consumption. It's a profound process of internal transformation. Carl Jung believed the key to liberation was individuation, the path of integrating all parts of the self, including those that have been repressed and often fuel addiction. Addiction doesn't arise from nowhere. It has roots in the shadow, in the flight from what's hard to confront. This is why overcoming addiction requires far more than willpower. It demands self-awareness, confrontation, and a new sense of purpose. Those who only try to quit without understanding the why of their dependency end up replacing one addiction with another. The first step to breaking free from addiction, according to Jung, is to look inward without fear. What exactly is being numbed? What pain, frustration, or void makes the mind seek refuge in a destructive substance or behavior? This analysis can't be superficial. It requires investigating one's own traumas, limiting beliefs, and emotional patterns. Therapies that work with the unconscious, like psychoanalysis, can be powerful tools here. Simplifying life also helps. Fewer distractions mean more. Clarity to see what truly matters. Another key point is rebuilding the relationship with pleasure. The addicted brain is accustomed to intense dopamine hits, making natural pleasures like deep conversation, a good book, or a moment of silence seem insufficient. Philosophy teaches that true pleasure lies not in intensity, but in depth. Learning to enjoy small things without needing excessive stimuli is one of the secrets to regaining control over your mind. If you think you need guidance to simplify your life and find a deeper purpose, our guide, How to Simplify Your Life. Minimalist philosophy could be a good starting point. We're here to help you live a fuller, more balanced life. Get more information and begin your transformation today. Let yourself be inspired by moving stories and experiences of transformation. Don't wait any longer to start your journey toward a simpler, more fulfilling life. Purchase our official Blue Phoenix Guide now at a special launch price and begin living with more meaning and serenity. Jung also spoke about the role of spirituality in recovery. Here, spirituality doesn't necessarily mean religion. It could be a philosophical path, a sense of purpose, or a connection to something greater. People who find meaning in their lives are far less likely to fall into dependency. This is because the internal void once filled by the substance or addictive behavior is now occupied by something genuinely fulfilling. This could be art, service to others, or personal growth. What matters is that it's real. The emotional economy must also be adjusted. When someone tries to overcome addiction, the brain enters a period of withdrawal, not just from the substance, but from the escape it provided. During this time, it's crucial to replace destructive habits with constructive ones. If stress was the trigger for consumption, that stress can now be alleviated through meditation, exercise, or creative activities, and above all, by surrounding oneself with people who encourage this new path rather than reinforcing old patterns. Ultimately, overcoming addiction is a process that goes beyond merely quitting consumption. It's a complete reconstruction of identity. Jung said, "We only become truly free when we integrate all parts of ourselves, including those we've tried to hide." This raises the question, after so much struggle, escape, and suffering, what remains when a person finally breaks free? What happens when they realize they no longer need addiction to exist? By now, it's clear that addiction isn't just a chemical problem. Yes, the brain adapts to addiction, creating dependency patterns and relentlessly seeking that same pleasure. But behind this lies something far deeper. Addiction is, above all, a reflection of unresolved internal conflict. For Jung, the true challenge isn't the substance, but what we're trying to hide from ourselves. The drug, money, overwork, or any other escape are merely symptoms of something greater. Until the root of the problem is confronted, the need to flee will always find new ways to manifest. Overcoming addiction, therefore, isn't just about quitting something. It's about rebuilding one's identity. It's looking inward and asking, what's missing? What pain is being avoided? What brings genuine satisfaction? Philosophy and personal development show that true freedom comes from the ability to be at peace with oneself without needing external crutches. But this path demands courage. Facing one's shadow is never easy, which is why many prefer to flee. The problem is that fleeing has a cost, and the longer it goes on, the higher it becomes. Our brains can become prisoners of certain patterns, and understanding this is the first step to regaining control. But is addiction just a chemical issue, or is there something deeper at play? Dependency goes beyond the brain. It touches our psyche, fears, and shadows. What if Jung helps us understand this even more profoundly? In the final screen, I'll leave a video where we explore the psychology of dependency, so you can better understand this process and find paths to overcome it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Take pride in having made it this far. It shows your determination to improve. I hope to see you there. Stay strong, stay resilient.